Surah 74. Al-Mudathir. Context. Period of revelation. The first 7 verses of this surah belong to the earliest period at Mecca. Even according to some hadith which have been related in Bukhari, Muslim, Tirmizi, Musnad Ahmed, etc., on the authority of Jabir bin Abdullah, these are the very earliest verses of the Quran to be revealed to the Prophet. But the Muslim Ummah almost unanimously agreed that the earliest revelation to the Prophet consisted of the first 5 verses of Surah 96, al-Alaq. However, what is established by authentic hadith, that after this first revelation, no revelation came down to the Prophet for quite some time. Then, when it was resumed, it started with the verses of Surah al-Mudathir. Imam Zuhri has given the following details of it.
Revelation to the Prophet remained suspended for quite some time, and it was such a period of deep grief and distress for him that he started going early to the tops of the mountains, to throw himself down from them. But whenever he stood on the edge of a peak, the angel Gabriel would appear and tell him that he was God's prophet. This would console him and restore to him full peace of mind, as narrated by Ibn Jarir.
After this, Imam Zuhri relates the following tradition on the authority of Jabir bin Abdullah.
The Messenger of God, describing the period of breaking revelation, Fatrath al-Wahi,
said,
"One day when I was passing on the way, I suddenly heard a call from heaven. I raised my head and saw that the same angel who had visited me in the cave of Hira was sitting on a throne between heaven and earth. This struck terror in my heart, and reaching home quickly, I said, 'Cover me up, cover me up.' So, the people of the house covered me up with a quilt or a blanket.
At that time God sent down the revelation,
'O you who covers himself, Ya ayyuhal mudathiru.' From
then on, revelation became intense and continuous.
As narrated by Bukhari, Muslim, Musnad Ahmed, Ibn Jarir.
The rest of the surah,
verses 8 to 56,
was revealed when the first Hajj season came, after public preaching of Islam had begun in Mecca. Theme and subject matter. As has been explained above, the earliest revelation to the Prophet consisted of the first 5 verses of Surah 96, al-Alaq.
Recite in the name of your Lord who created the human being from a clinging substance. Recite, and your Lord is the most generous, who taught by the pen, taught the human being that which he knew not.
This was the first experience of revelation by the Prophet. In this message, it was not told what great mission he had been entrusted with, and what duties he had to perform in future. He was only initiated into it and then left alone for a time, so that the great strain this experience had caused should pass away, and he should mentally become prepared to receive the revelation and perform the prophetic mission in the future. After this intermission, when revelation was resumed, the first 7 verses of this surah were revealed. In these, he was for the first time commanded to arise and warn the people of the consequences of the way of life they were following, and to proclaim the greatness of God in the world, where others were being magnified without any right. Along with that, he was given this instruction.
The demand of the unique mission that you have to perform now is that your life should be pure in every respect, and you should carry out the duty of reforming your people sincerely, irrespective of any worldly gain.
Then, in the last sentence, he was exhorted to endure with patience, for the sake of his Lord, all the hardships and troubles that he might have to face while performing his mission. In the implementation of this divine command, when the Messenger of God began to preach Islam and recite the Quranic surahs revealed successively, the people of Mecca felt alarmed, and it provoked a great storm of opposition and hostility. A few months passed in this state until the Hajj season approached. The people of Mecca feared that if Muhammad started visiting the caravans of the pilgrims coming from all over Arabia at their halting places, and reciting the spellbinding and unique revelations of the Quran in their assemblies on the occasion of Hajj, his message would reach every part of Arabia and influence countless people. Therefore, the Quraysh chiefs held a conference, and settled that they would start a propaganda campaign against the Prophet among the pilgrims as soon as they arrived. After they had agreed on this, Walid bin al-Mughira said to the assembled people,
"If you said contradictory things about Muhammad, we all would lose our trust among the people. Therefore, let us agree upon one opinion, which we should all say without dispute."
Some people said that they would call Muhammad a soothsayer. Walid said,
"No, by God, he is not a soothsayer. We have seen the soothsayers, what they murmur and what they utter has no remote resemblance with the Quran."
Some other people said,
"Then we say he is possessed."
Walid said,
"He is not a possessed one. We have seen bad and insane people. The way one talks disjointedly and behaves foolishly in that state is known to all. Who would believe that what Muhammad presented was the incoherent speech of a madman?"
The people said,
"Then we say he is a poet."
Walid said,
"No, he is not a poet, for we know poetry in all its forms, and what he presents conforms to no form of it."
The people said,
"Then he is a sorcerer."
Walid said,
"He is no sorcerer either. We have seen sorcerers, and we also know what methods they adopt for their sorcery. This also does not apply to Muhammad."
Then he said,
"Whichever of these things you said about Muhammad, it would be known to be a false accusation. By God, his speech is sweet, his root is deep, and his branches are fruitful."
At this Abu Jahl, urging on Walid, said,
"Your people will never be pleased with you unless you say something about Muhammad."
He said,
"Let me think over it a while."
Then, after prolonged thought and consideration, he said,
"The nearest thing to the truth is that you tell the Arabs that he is a sorcerer, who has brought a message by which he separates a man from his father, and from his brother, and from his wife and children, and from his family."
They all agreed on what Walid had proposed. Then, according to a scheme, the men of Quraysh spread among their pilgrims in the Hajj season, and they warned everyone they met of the sorcery of Muhammad, and of his stirring up divisions in the families by it. But the result was that by this plan, the Quraysh chiefs themselves made the name of the messenger known throughout Arabia. That Walid had made this proposal on the insistence of Abu Jahl has been related by Ibn Jarir in his tafsir on the authority of Ikrimah. In conclusion, it has been explicitly stated, God does not stand in need of anybody's faith, that he may fulfill his conditions. The Quran is an admonition that has been presented before the people openly, now whoever wills may accept it. God has a right that the people should fear his disobedience, and he alone has the power to forgive the one who adopts piety and an attitude of God consciousness even though one may have committed many acts of disobedience in the past. Surah 74. Al-Mudathir. In the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful. O you, who covers himself with a garment, arise and warn, and your Lord glorify, and your clothing purify, and uncleanliness avoid, and do not confer favor to acquire more. But for your Lord, be patient. And when the trumpet is blown, that day will be a difficult day for the disbelievers, not easy. Leave me with the one I created, alone, and to whom I granted extensive wealth, and children present, with him, and spread everything before him, easing his life. Then he desires that I should add more. No. Indeed he has been toward our verses, obstinate. I will cover him with arduous torment. Indeed he thought, and deliberated, so may he be destroyed, for how he deliberated. Then may he be destroyed, for how he deliberated. Then he considered again, then he frowned and scowled. Then he turned back and was arrogant, and said, This is not but magic imitated from others. This is not but the word of a human being. I will drive him into Sakar, and what can make you know what is Sakar? It lets nothing remain, and leaves nothing unburned, altering, blackening, the skins. Over it are 19 angels, and we have not made the keepers of the fire, except angels. And we have not made their number, except as a trial for those who disbelieve, that those who were given the book will be convinced, and those who have believed, will increase in faith, and those who were given the book, and the believers will not doubt, and that those in whose hearts is disease, hypocrisy, and the disbelievers will say, "What does God intend by this as an example?" Thus does God leave astray whom He wills, and guides whom He wills. And none knows the soldiers of your Lord, except Him. And it, mention of the fire, is not but a reminder, to humanity. No. By the moon and by the night when it departs, and by the morning when it brightens. Indeed it, the fire, is of the greatest afflictions as a warning to humanity, to whoever wills among you to proceed, or stay behind. Every soul, for what it has earned, will be retained, except the companions of the right, who will be in gardens, questioning each other about the criminals, and asking them, "What put you into Sakar?" They will say, "We were not of those who prayed, nor did we use to feed the poor. And we used to enter into vain discourse, with those who engaged in it. And we used to deny the day of recompense, until there came to us the certainty, death, so there will not benefit them the intercession of any intercessors." Then what is the matter with them, that they are, from the reminder, turning away, as if they were alarmed donkeys fleeing from a lion? Rather, every person among them desires, that he would be given scripture spread about. No. But they do not fear the hereafter. No. Indeed it, the Quran, is a reminder, then whoever wills, will remember it. And they will not remember, except that God wills. He is worthy of fear, and adequate for granting forgiveness.